Sirens go off, no big deal. It's Joplin, Missouri, like nothing, like it happens.
Yes, please.
Right now,
Please
I am telling you to
yes,
take cover.
Take cover right now.
We do have a
Folks,
tornado on the ground.
This is a tornado, yeah, this is a very dangerous situation.
As we were driving home, we saw this very large black wall. And at that point, we didn't know it was a tornado because it was so big. All we saw was black.
My ears were popping, my skin was doing weird, like I could feel pulling from the inside of my skin. And he looked over and he saw the trees twisting in the air.
Coming out of that tornado, the whole world had been turned upside down for us.
I actually had driven from my mother's house back to our house afterwards and come upon really the devastation in the middle of town and spent several hours helping pull people out of rubble. And you really see that these folks have nothing left.
Every street that we tried to get to had trees down or cars upside down or power lines.
It's like that little game when you're a kid and they blindfold you and turn you in a circle and you turn all the way around and you don't know which is north or south or east or west because everything is gone. So, and that's kind of the way your life is. And you're so appreciative when somebody can step in and at least say, this is what you do, this is step number one. And that's what Salvation Army did for us.
And when I got there, the whole block, the whole area was full of people, full of really sick people, full of really hurt people, full of lost people, just full of EMS. And the Salvation Army was there.
There were no homes, and you could see for miles of the devastation that the tornado had taken out this city.
Cell phones didn't work. Text messaging was barely working. Water wasn't running. Gas mains were leaking everywhere. You couldn't get a gallon of gasoline in this town, but yet there was Salvation Army with hot food and cold drinks. And you know, I have a passion for Dr. Pepper, and one of your staff actually found one. I think it's probably the only cold one in the city at that point in time and brought it up to me. And you know, it sounds kind of funny, but it meant something. You know, I'm actually kind of tearing up right now. It was that one thing that brought comfort when everybody else was looking at me for support, and that's the one thing I needed. And I'm thankful for that.
The Salvation Army was at work minutes afterwards when Captain Jason Poff left his house that was half torn apart, came down to the Corps and started sheltering people right away.
And I remember one of the first moments of breakdown for me was, I mean, I'd been there since it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just was feeling a little overwhelmed. And one of the Salvation Army people came over and offered me coffee and prayed with me.
I mean, they had hot coffee, they had food, and at this point, you know, you're not even thinking about those things, but it only took probably a couple more hours when you realize, well, you don't have any more food, you don't have clothing, you have nothing, and the next meal, it becomes very important to you. And that's, at that point, that's what the Salvation Army was to us, was that next meal. And they were, at that point, a lifesaver to us.
And it's not like they could go to a shelter 5 miles away because, as one lady put it, my car is in a tree.
As the search and rescue teams would come in, we would serve them and we would listen to their stories, and then we would feed them water or food, and getting them ready and prepared physically with what they needed, but also spiritually or emotionally to be able to go back and do more search and rescue.
The Salvation Army was one of the only people that, not only were they there about an hour after, but the Salvation Army didn't leave a week later.
It's easy to write a check, okay? It's easy to write a check. How you execute on that is where all the work takes place. And so, you know, one of my most scarce resources is time. And I'm not good with a hammer, and I'm not, you know, and my volunteer skills are probably not that great. but we have the ability to write a check. So we do what we can do so that you can do what you can do.
Salvation Army came and really helped take over some of the other basic needs, the food and the water and shelter. I couldn't provide shelter for these people. They had an answer. Once they were able to do that, I could focus just on medical. I felt comfortable. I felt like there was somebody right there with me, and they had my back. I had their back. We were gonna be okay. We were gonna be able to take care of the people together.
Somehow I got made an instant commander, and we put about 3,000 people in the field and did 60,000 man-hours of search and recovery effort, and we just could not have done that without the Salvation Army support. There's just no way we could have brought food, you brought water, brought compassionate help, and any humanitarian support, whatever you want to call it. It was essential, and you guys were there even before we were.
The government response here was helpful when it got here, but it got here a great, quite a little bit after the tornado had come through. Organizations like Salvation Army stepped up immediately.
It was good to work with an organization that was so well prepared and that got in here before any other organization. Like, I didn't see anybody else but first responders down there too. Like, FEMA wasn't here, Red Cross wasn't here, Salvation Army was here. Like, they beat everybody else. Like, they clawed their way in, and they did an outstanding job.
The Salvation Army saved lives. They saved lives. I don't know what those people would have done without them. And what we would have done, the nurses and the policemen and the firemen, what would we have done if we didn't have the Salvation Army right there?
We're going to be here for a very long time. And the people of Joplin have the comfort of knowing that the Salvation Army will work hand in hand with them to restore their community.
What I've probably noticed the most since the tornado from the Salvation Army is the fact that they're staying right there in the middle of the heart of this path of the tornado. Devastation all around, but by staying there in the community, they're actually helping to bring some hope to the people that live around there. These were people that probably didn't even realize what the Salvation Army did. They probably didn't need help from anybody until this happened. And right there was the Salvation Army in the middle of it.
I mean, there are a lot of good organizations, I think, that helped out in this tornado recovery. But I think we had the confidence in the Salvation Army that they would not waste the contributions that we made.
We can't say enough about them. The fact that the Salvation Army is still here, and it's over 100 days later, and they're still here doing the exact same thing that they were doing for us from day one.